All right, guys, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun here. So Ben Shapiro had on Candace Owens, who has a new Daily Wire show. And the title of the video is How Porn is Destroying Society. A little bit of an overstatement, wouldn't you say? I don't know. I think that maybe goes a little too far, just a little bit. Porn is destroying society. All right, so let's hear this, this edgy, young, appealing commentary here.
Candace Owens, she requires no introduction. Of course, she's a New York Times best-selling author, founder of Blexit. She's host of the brand new show, Candace Owens, named after her, obviously.
By the way, I have them on 1.25 times speed here, which makes Ben Shapiro sound like he's on triple speed. So just warning you up front.
Daily Wire Plus. First of all, Candace, congratulations on the show. It is soaring up the charts.
I'm very excited about it. It feels like the right move to go 5 days a week.
Well, I mean, obviously, the audience agrees, given the numbers that we've been seeing. So let's talk about some of the stuff that you've been talking about on the show. So you did an episode yesterday about the normalization of pornography in the culture. It's the stuff that you can do better than pretty much anyone else. Because, number one, if I talk about the normalization of pornography in the culture, I'm a sexist. If you talk about the normalization of pornography of the culture, then you're a feminist. So it's good.
I would argue if you talk about how porn is destroying society, you're an idiot. And if she talks about how porn is destroying society, she's an idiot. That's my breakdown. I don't really care about the feminist, not feminist. No, that's irrelevant. It's just a goofy thing to say because it's not true.
You can say these things. So what exactly were you talking about on the show yesterday?
Well, I will say, Ben, I did take a page out of your book and I dropped a couple of bleeps because it was just way too expletive. I went bleep, bleep, bleep. But I was just sort of talking about where we're headed towards. And it was a conversation that I was having with my husband about pornography. My husband completely abstains from social media. And if you ask him, he just casually says, because it's all pornography. He's talking about Instagram. He's talking.
Candace, I hate to tell you this, your husband does not abstain from pornography. You might think he does. He most certainly does not.
About Facebook, he's talking about opening up a page and looking at the Daily Mail. But we've become so desensitized to it. So when I'm on Instagram, I don't even pay attention to the fact that actually, there's just nothing but butts and people's tits on the internet at all times. But we've become increasingly as a culture saying that this is okay. And so I wanted to have that discussion about pornography. I was listening to a Catholic podcast.
Sounds like fun. What do you want to do about that? So look, I agree. You go to Instagram, you go to almost any social media outlet. And there are a lot of, thirst trap pictures and people showing titties or ass or whatever. Now, I think most of the time they are covered, right? Like it's not full frontal nudity on all these social media platforms 24/7. Maybe some of them have some percentage that are like that, but it's mostly people covered, right? People just trying to make themselves look sexy and airbrushing the shit out of it and all that stuff, right? I agree. What do you want to do about that? There is no solution that you can describe as non-authoritarian. If you want the companies to say our new policy is you can't post anything that's even remotely sexual, even if you're covered, okay, well, that's an authoritarian policy from the social media outlet. If you want the government to say you can't do that, that's an authoritarian policy from the government. If you want to just culturally change the norm and the zeitgeist so that people willingly don't do that, well, that's not going to happen. And I have a bridge to sell you if you think that is going to happen. So what do you want to do about it? Or do you just want to bitch and moan about people trying to be sexy on social media, which, hey, fair enough, right? But then why are we even talking about it? Because there's bigger fish to fry, more important things to talk about.
They were talking about how even the seeds that are being planted on porn websites, which I did visit yesterday, are all incestuous. And of course, it brought me to the conversation about Kim Kardashian, who has been in the news recently for something which is so abhorrent, if true, and it looks like it is true, that she actually orchestrated her own sex tape. Her mother sat there and watched the sex tapes, and it was a complete PR move. And they released the tape.
Okay, wait. I watched Ray J's meltdown over this in his live stream on, Instagram. His argument is, it was Kris Jenner who was steering the ship. So she's the one who wanted them to shoot another sex tape, and she wanted to pick the best one and leak the best one. It'll help their careers and all that stuff. But really, the argument there is not about the moral decline of the country or anybody or anything. It's about a greedy capitalist trying to exploit her own daughter for profit and fame. That's what that is. So, one of the things you guys love the most, capitalism, is really one of the main things to blame here, right?
That they thought was the best out of 3 that they had her shoot, according to the man in the film, Ray J.
I mean, that's an unbelievable story. And of course, it gets completely ignored by the mainstream media for being disgusting. Instead, if it's paid attention to it all...
I didn't see it ignored. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe it wasn't in big publications. Maybe it was ignored, but it was certainly it was viral on Twitter. You know, that's how I stumbled across it. I saw Ray J was trending. I clicked it. I watched one of his live streams, and I was like, oh, shit, this is crazy. And they had a contract and everything with one of the big porn companies, and Ray J was showing the receipts, and he was like, look, this is what happened. And Kris Jenner was the one who was steering the ship the whole time. And again, his argument was we were exploited by Kris. Kris wanted more fame for the Kardashians. And again, lay it right at the feet of a greedy capitalist like Kris Jenner, a manipulative, greedy capitalist.
Sort of in the subculture of the internet, because you're not allowed to report that Kim Kardashian has obviously exploited her body for money. I mean, the way that she became famous was these sex tapes. Now it turns out, according to Ray J, that Mommy Kardashian was actually watching the tapes and helping to select which one she apparently looked best in. And it's not as though Kim Kardashian has cooled it recently. I mean, she recently appeared on the cover of Interview magazine wearing nothing on her bottom. I mean, this sort of stuff. You're
okay. But wait, see, now we're talking about, this is years later. She's an adult. She's in, what, her 30s? And if she wants to do that photo shoot, she can fucking do that photo shoot. What's the problem here? Again, unless you want to set a policy, have the government ban anybody showing naked body parts, or have the magazine say, we're going to ban anybody showing body parts. I don't know what the beef is here. What's the beef?
Right, has been completely normalized throughout the culture. This is a long process. I wrote a book in, I think, 2004 called Porn Generation about how pornography was being absolutely mainstreamed, how people...
Ben Shapiro wrote an anti-porn book in 2004. Holy shit, we should totally read that and laugh at it. Oh my god. Ben Shapiro wrote an anti-porn book in 2004. How did I miss this? How the hell did I miss this? This is glorious.
Who had been porn stars were now being made into mainstream cultural figures. Now they're being made into mainstream cultural political figures. But you know, it takes people like you to say this sort of stuff.
Right. I think it's really important. And what I always want to do with my show is further those cultural conversations, because I think in the past, conservatives have sort of looked at culture and said, well, it's not important. Let's have a more intellectual discussion. But as
conservatives have never, ever, 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 ever said that. They've always been all in on the culture war. Evangelical Christians have dominated the cultural conversation for a generation. By the way, the roots of the religious right, the fundamentalist religious right, it was birthed in opposition to desegregation. How many of you know that? And then, of course, it morphed over time to anti-gay politics animating that movement. They've always been all in on the culture war. It's this unholy alliance, no pun intended, of the laissez-faire free market capitalists, the libertarians, the anarcho-capitalists, that mentality, the corporatists, that mentality married up with social conservatism for an alliance of convenience to win political power, to, you know, enact their agenda. And largely, the result has been the economic right has won. We're deep in the neoliberal era, but the social conservatives have lost. You know, we have gay marriage. Well, I guess now with the rollback of abortion, you could argue they notched a victory there, right? But they've always been all about the culture war. Are you kidding me? What a ridiculous point to make, man. Holy shit. Oh, the conservatives want to have a more intellectual discussion. What are you talking about? What intellectual discussion? What's their position on literally any economic issue ever? Cut taxes for the rich and deregulate. Doesn't matter what the specifics are. That's our answer. I forgot what the question is. The answer is this. In no realm do they want to have an intellectual discussion. And again, on social issues, it's let's be more authoritarian. Let's have big government direct people's lives and say what they can and can't say, can and can't do, what body parts they can and can't show. What a joke, man.
You know, your late mentor, Andrew Breitbart, said politics is downstream from culture. So a lot of times we're looking around and we're saying, how are we even having this debate about whether or not, you know, children have the autonomy over their bodies, and whether or not, which we are literally having a debate about right now, you know, pedophilia is okay, right? People are saying, oh.
Who the fuck's saying pedophilia is okay? Who is saying is the argument that this is like a mainstream left position? Is that the argument? I mean, God, these people are, oh, they're so bad. Oh, they're such charlatans.
Children can pick their gender. Children can be sexual beings. Well, these conversations are happening.
By the way, let's be clear. Let's be clear. That's not the only debate going on. There's another debate going on about trans issues. And now some people are out of the closet on the right as, I don't think anybody should be able to transition. Anybody. So you have Matt Walsh, who did the What is a Woman documentary. He said on Twitter, it went pretty viral, he was like, we should basically ban all transition surgery, even for adults. You know, I asked Jordan Peterson, would you ban it for adults? And his answer was, I don't know. So this idea that it's just about the kids, that is definitely not true. Definitely not true. There are many on the right who want to ban it for adults too. Now, that's something you don't want to bring up. Because that, even many in their own audience will be like, that's a little extreme. You know, body autonomy, freedom, liberty, these things matter, right? Apparently it doesn't when it comes to social issues. They want to be as authoritarian as humanly possible. Just like they're talking about how porn is destroying society now. And what would you guys like to do about porn destroying society? Would you like to ban it? Is that what you'd like to do? You should be honest about that. You should say that. Just say it. Just say it. The title of the fucking video is how porn is destroying society.
Happening because of what's going on in the culture. And so it's important that we attack that and that we call it wrong and that we call it, in the case of Kim Kardashian, satanic. Because I just became a mother to a daughter. You have daughters.
Satanic? Do you mean that literally, Candace Owens? Satanic. So what, Kim Kardashian is possessed by a demon? Kris Jenner is possessed by a demon? Well, I got news for you. They're not. Kris is possessed by the capitalism mind virus. I will exploit my daughter for profit and fame. We got nothing to say about that. Nothing at all.
I mean, could you even imagine the concept of selling, quite literally selling your daughter's body for fame when they were already a wealthy family? They had everything that they ever needed to be happy and to be successful, and yet it wasn't enough because fame was too tempting. I mean, it's really sickening stuff.
The mainstreaming of pornography really is an amazing story because the fact is that back in the 70s, the feminist movement said pornography is exploitative because it obviously is. It is pandering.
Okay, so there are sex-negative feminists and sex-positive feminists. Sex-negative feminists said that's exploitation of a woman's body and we don't like it, we're against it. I disagree with that. There are many feminists who disagree with that. There are many non-feminists who disagree with that. Fundamentally, it's a matter of freedom. Now, you want to say, hey, let's change the economy. So there are no people who feel like I have no other options, and they're kind of like softly forced into the realm of sex work to pay the bills because they have no other marketable skills, and they just got dealt a bad hand in life. And so they feel like, the only thing I could do here is OnlyFans. The only thing I could do is be a stripper. You want to change the economy so nobody feels forced into that field? I'm totally with that. 100% with that. But even in a scenario where we have a close to a utopian society where everybody's economic needs are met, there's still going to be some people who actively choose to be in the sex industry. And to them I say, God bless. Because, okay, their argument only makes sense if you really internalize and believe to your core that sex is shameful and bad. It's just not a good thing. The second you acknowledge that many people are sex positive and they enjoy it and they like it, well, then you realize, okay, if you want to free of your own volition, go into any one of these fields, by all means, go right ahead. But he doesn't believe that.
To the worst in men. It is pandering to male desires. It is causing women to have to exploit their bodies in order to get attention. This is all bad. And then the feminist movement shifted in the 80s and 90s, and suddenly pornography
also, like, it's a denial of the most obvious thing about human nature, right? Sexuality is one of the most obvious things about human nature, and it's just a complete disregard for that being a real thing.
Empowering. In fact, you'll have Hillary Clinton going around the country and doing TV series on gutsy women, and the people that she's interviewing very often are people who are exploiting their bodies, obviously, for fame and fortune. It's an amazing shift. And meanwhile, you have an entire, I would say it was subpopulation, but I would imagine now it's probably approaching a majority of the male population of the United States that, if not addicted to pornography, uses pornography regularly.
Certainly a majority use pornography regularly. Are they addicted? Depends on your definition of addicted. But again, it's like saying, these people eat every day. They like food. Are they addicted to food? No, that is one of the most natural things you could do is eat food. Another thing humans are naturally very interested in, the overwhelming majority, there's some small percentage that's asexual, but the overwhelming majority are interested in sex. And so the moral condemnation and the shame around it, it's all manufactured from a very far right perspective. It is so goofy.
And has this made men stronger? Has this made marriages stronger? And then we look around and the media are decrying toxic masculinity. It's like, well, you guys really created the forces that unleashed a lot of this.
Right, and it's funny, you ask those questions and they're very important to answer. Has it made men stronger? Has it made families stronger? Well, that was the point, right? The feminist movement has nothing to do with women. It has nothing to do with trying to help women at all. They just like to still use the word feminism so that you can't attack it, right? Or else you're a sexist and you hate women. But in reality, it's actually...
Wait, I thought you guys said you were making a feminist argument here. Now all of a sudden feminism is bad and wrong?
Harming women and it's harming families. And the reason for that is because it helps the government. And at the end of the day, in order for a government to grow in the capacity that it wants to grow and to be omnipotent in our lives, it needs to make sure that it is routinely denigrating the idea of the nuclear family unit, which stands in the way of a government and omnipotence. And so that's what we're seeing.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is all a plot because the government wants to grow or something, bro.
And that's what we're talking about on the show. Pay attention to the various ways that they are attacking the family. It's through pornography. When I was in school, and this is a really horrible thing.
Okay. Now, I'm sure... maybe even the majority of people who use pornography have their own family. This is not like, it's not some either or. Look at this false dichotomy they're putting in front of us here.
That I'm looking at it in the retrospect. In health class, we learned that partaking in pornography as a observer of pornography, watching porn, was a healthy thing. I learned about this in health class. It's a good...
She 100% did not learn this in health class. This is utterly made up. I don't believe this for a fucking second. I don't believe it. And by the way, can we agree on this? There should be such a thing as health class, where indeed they talk about things like sex. Because kids are getting to the age where they're old enough where these things are going to happen one way or the other, and you'd like to have some reasonable guidance so there aren't huge mistakes made, like babies when you're in ninth grade or some shit, right?
Good thing for your relationship for you to sit in a room, do something shameful, and observe other people having sex on the internet. I learned that. Think about what that really says about the state of things in school. You know, now that I'm an adult, I want to make sure that I'm having these conversations for young people to know that that's actually not correct. What you're learning in the public school system is not correct. And what they're trying to do is turn you into basically a government slave, because your families will be ruined and you will have nothing, in my opinion. You look around.
Oh, the government's trying to turn you into a government slave. Wow. It's amazing that there's any market for this absolute lunacy.
And you'll say my life has nothing of real substance and of real value. And it's because I believed these far left ideologies.
We'll get some more.
Okay, now this is an ad because Ben Shapiro can't go more than 6 minutes or 7 minutes without doing an ad. Come on, dude. Anyway, there you have it. This is so goofy, so goofy. I don't know how anybody takes this seriously. And by the way, you know, over 90% of the people who are hitting like on this video probably beat off within the past 2 days. So spare me this moralizing nonsense. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.